let me say thank you, David, for all that you've done. And I'm so glad that you've been selected as the strong leader for Plant City YMCA. I have watched you grow. You've been an example for me. Watched you call on many, many people and ask for contributions, both for the Y and for the food bank. And I can't say enough about you as a person for the good that you've done. I would like to say that David has been an inspiration for me in telling me, giving me examples of what I should do in life as well. You know, he and my wife are good friends, and sometimes I think he likes her an awful lot better than me. But he's always told me, he said, Dean, he said, you know, if you ever get separated from your wife inside a social function, he said, just find the prettiest girl that you can find in the room and get next to her, and your wife will find you. So that's one of the things that David's told me. He also told me one day that he said, Dean, there have been old pilots and there are bold pilots, but you don't see too many old bold pilots. So, you know, he's an inspiration to all of us. Love him to death. That Mississippi twang that he has, it really does well for us in the community. Thank you, David, for all you do. Thank you for being an inspiration. Thank you for being a community leader. Thank you, and congratulations on being the strong leader.
David Miller. Well, for those of you that know David, you know that there's always a story. And within that story, there's always great wisdom. You just have to be patient enough to listen. David is an avid LSU fan, always supporting his Tigers, but he goes far beyond sports. David started the Daybreak Rotary. He has raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for local organizations such as the YMCA and the emergency room at South Florida Baptist Hospital. He's also been known to cook up a Cajun meal or two for the food bank and has served many a pot of gumbo for the Rotary's Wild Game Cookout. I figured out rather quickly that David has a heart of gold, and he goes far beyond doing everything but never wants to be recognized. He is the epitome of volunteer extraordinaire. He is a mentor, he is a dear friend, and I'm honored to be a part of this evening. So David, tonight, let us thank you for everything you have done. Plant City is so lucky to have you call us home.
I'm Richard Gant. I'm the Director of Community Affairs with CF Industries, and I've known David for many years. David Miller is a truly unique guy. If he wasn't so bashful, you might learn more about David, because he rarely speaks a lot in public. But anyway, David has been very involved over the years in community activities in Plant City. When you think about community involvement, David is the person who comes to mind first and foremost. He's got a very generous spirit, a big heart, and whenever you get involved in any projects with David, you're going to have fun. I can guarantee you. And you'll eat well. That's the other thing. A lot of people don't realize it, but David is a great cook. When we got involved through the food bank, David told me about this event where he and Emma will come to your house and they'll cook dinner for you. And that has gotten to be a real event at our house. We've done it for 2 or 3 of the last years, and David and Emma are just are a highlight of the evening, and all of our friends love to come, and they love listening to David's stories. So I just got to say, David, job well done. You're a great leader. You've been very instrumental towards helping to make the Plant City community a better place to live.
When I think of David, a quote by Robert Burns comes to mind. The purpose of life is a life of purpose. To me, that is the David Miller I know. So how do I describe David as a strong leader? Well, I look for 7 traits in a good leader. And David gets a check mark by every one of these qualities. 1, a good leader is of utmost character, trustworthy. David is never afraid to walk the talk. 2, 2, enthusiastic about the work or the cause. He will always roll up his sleeves and never worries about getting dirty. 3, he is confident, which in turn inspires confidence in others. 4, he functions in an orderly and purposeful manner. In situations of uncertainty, others find reassurance and security with his positive demeanor. 5, David always keeps a cool head, composed and steadfast. 6, David always keeps the main goal in focus and is able to think analytically. 7, he is committed to excellence. Second best does not lead to success for David. David just seems to be blessed naturally with these traits present in his personality. We are all better individuals, a better community, because of all of David's contributions. Thank you, Emma, for sharing David with us. And David, thank you for being my friend. Love you.
My fellow Americans, it's great to be here with you tonight as I sit by the fireplace as we congratulate David. David, you've been a great friend and a great person for Plant City. You're involved in absolutely everything. If you're not out front leading the charge, you're behind the scenes with your fingers in absolutely anything that's going on to help the people of Plant City and the citizens. A lot of things people may not know about you, and many of us know that you cook great gumbo, as you do every year for the Rotary Wild Game. But David also makes some really great stuffed peppers. He freezes them, and he brought them over when Judy was ill and said, put them in the microwave for 4 minutes and you have a great meal, and they are really wonderful. Something else you may not know about David is he got me involved in politics. I was talking about possibly running for the city commission, and we talked about it. And then David took me to the Rotary Club and introduced me around and told everybody he was supporting me for that position, and I got elected to the city commission. And then he also helped me as I ran for the state house and got elected to the Florida House of Representatives. So David was right there making things happen. So if you like what I've done over these years, thank you very much. And if you don't, just go ahead and blame David. It was his fault. Something else, David, this is the second take on this. I initially called your gumbo jambalaya, but you know, what do you expect from a Yankee who grew up on pasta and pizza? David, congratulations.
David has been a personal friend of mine for a number of years. I've not only known him as a neighbor, which he and Emma are fantastic to have for neighbors, but I've worked with David on a number of committees through the United Food Bank, through the YMCA, and wild game type cookouts, and that's led to a fundraiser which David inaugurated as a neighborhood event, and it's eventually been inherited by the Rotary Daybreak Club of Plant City. I would compare him to an Aesop fable in that when David starts talking, you better listen, and it won't be for just a second. I mean, he pontificates the best of any person I've ever worked with. And when you work on a project with him, you do not accept the first idea that's thrown out. David wants to research and analyze and make sure that we're looking at all the options that are available. He will have a story to tell you that will be so funny that you can't stop laughing. Like he talks about roaches in the corner being sprayed roaches, which if you can imagine what a sprayed roach looks like, you can equate that to somebody running around trying to do something and not accomplishing a whole lot. But both David and Emma are super people. I've had the pleasure of knowing David through good and bad, and I welcome the opportunity to speak on his behalf.
Hello, David. I hope you're enjoying yourself this evening. I'd like to take a walk back in time to 2005 when I first met you. Scott Warren asked me to serve on the Major Gifts Committee for the Building Strong Kids campaign. I'm not quite sure why. I really didn't know anyone in town. I was new, but you were very much an inspirational and instructional leader to me, teaching me the ins and outs of fundraising in Plant City. You taught me who to go to, who not to go to, when to go to them, and how to go to them, to secure fundraising for the Plant City YMCA. And to this day, those lessons you taught me, I still use in fundraising here in Plant City. So thank you very much for being a leader to me, a leader to the Plant City YMCA, and a leader in our community. Congratulations.
Hello, David. Sitting in Craig Davidson. You remember us 30 years ago when we moved to Plant City, Florida. Soon after we moved there, you were our first neighbor. With David, we were able to understand what a smoked turkey was all about. Being Yankees, we never had smoked turkeys. So we enjoyed our first smoked turkey. Not long afterwards, David shared with us his secret recipe for fried turkey. And folks, this was long before people were frying turkeys.
That's right.
David brought the recipe from Louisiana, or Louisiana as he would say, from Yazoo City, Mississippi. And we soon began injecting turkeys and frying turkeys every year. And over the years, we've cooked many, many turkeys, and we've always used David's secret recipe, his marinade that he put together, and he would inject it, and he went through a process, and it's far better than any of the other canned varieties and bottled varieties that they sell now. And since it's a secret recipe, you started with a...
No, don't do that.
David, maybe you should share it with everybody, but it is wonderful. And Cindy, what do you have to add?
I just wanted to congratulate you, David, on your Strong Leader Award. It's very well deserved. I bet you've heard that several times this evening. Just as Craig and I are better for having your friendship, Plant City's better for having you with your input and leadership to the community. Congratulations. Much love.
Wish we could be there, David.
I first got acquainted with you when you came to Plant City joining the Rotary Club. After a few years in the Rotary Club, you became president. You may or may not remember, but I was your sergeant of arms. We never got our raffle numbers right. I always called out 4 numbers, and you said it was 3, and vice versa. But we had fun doing it, and with your strong leadership in the Rotary Club, the Rotary Club continued to grow. I remember we started years ago when we had the Wild Game Cookout. We started out with having 100 people, and we grew to 300. And then while you were president, I'm not so sure that we didn't get up to 1,000 people. You brought to the table the Wild Game Cookout your famous gumbo. I have a recipe today for 800 people prepared for it. I have never been able to whittle it down to 12 people. I think one day that you may share that with me to break it down. I never have been able to do the math for it myself. I would appreciate that. Also, along those same lines, on the food that you prepared is the bread pudding. My wife never liked bourbon until she had some of your bread pudding, and now she's hooked on the bourbon or the bread pudding, or a combination of both. And I appreciate that because I enjoy a little bourbon every now and then. Then, most importantly, I love your storytelling. We had great experiences together while you were working on your John Deere tractors out at my barn. I would start out telling a story, and then I'd have to listen to you. Most of my stories had some BS in it, and most of yours apparently were true, or somebody said they could be true. Most importantly, Dave, you are a true Southern gentleman. I appreciate your friendship. The community has benefited from you over the years and what you've contributed to the community. And as you always say, we'll see you again soon.
Hey, Tina, I'm looking at this itinerary. We're supposed to be talking about the LSU Tigers?
Oh, no, Gary, it's about David Miller, who is an LSU Tiger.
Okay, I guess that makes more sense. So what are we supposed to do, come up with a topic about David?
Well, there's so much with David Miller. He's a Plant City leader, great husband, family man, chef extraordinaire, neighbor, Emma's boy toy, man of many words.
That's the one, man of many words.
Oh, that's a good idea. Don't you have a list of all his sayings?
Well, of course, I carry it everywhere I go. I have the David Millerisms with me at this moment in time. Matter of fact, I'll read them, and you can interpret them.
Okay, I'll do that. No.
Not really appropriate, no. As busy as a one-armed paper hanger.
Working overtime to get the job done.
Ain't gonna happen, Captain.
No.
No, not appropriate. Tough as chicken lips.
Really, really difficult.
At my age, I don't buy green bananas and start long books.
He's old.
Pecked to death by a canary.
the inability to outmaneuver a little tiny yellow bird.
Tiger bait.
Loser.
And his all-time favorite, Go Tigers.
Winner. David, that's what you are, a real winner.
Go Tigers. Congratulations, David.
You're our tiger.
I first met David Miller in early 1999 at a Rotary meeting in Plant City. I had just come to town. I was the new HCC Plant City campus president, and David invited me to lunch. We went to Casbour's, as I remember, because David's other favorite restaurant, Panera's, was not yet built. And David had a plan for me. I didn't know it yet, but David had a plan for me. He had 3 things he wanted out of me that day, and he got all of them because, well, we all know David. First of all, he wanted my help in working with him in building a new civic center on the HCC Plant City campus. And the result of that project, as you all know, was in January 2006, we opened the John R. Trinkle Center on the HCC campus. Secondly, he wanted me to join Rotary, and since I'd already been a member of two Rotary clubs for a total of 15 years, I said yes to that too. And thirdly, he wanted me to become involved in a major fundraising project that he was helping to organize at the time. And the purpose of that project was to build a new YMCA building for Plant City. I had swum at the Young Street facility, the old Young Street facility, and so I was definitely on board to building a new facility in Plant City. And the result of that, of course, is our beautiful new YMCA on YMCA Boulevard off of Alexander Street. Other projects over the years that David has helped me a lot with have included raising $2.5 million at the HCC Plant City campus, major fundraising campaign there in 04, 05, and 06. And the other was getting the University of Florida IFAS to come to the HCC Plant City campus. And that reminds me of the only thing that I don't like about David Miller, his LSU loyalty. But most of us in Plant City overlook that because he does so many other good things for us and for the city. And you know, he plays a critical role in Plant City. He is the chief broker of all deals here. And because of that, I've given him a nickname. I call him Plant City's consigliere. And if you don't know what a consigliere is, I encourage you to look it up because it certainly fits what David Miller has done over the last 13 years since I've been in this town. So I'm here to salute my friend David Miller and Plant City's consigliere.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to have been asked to speak to you tonight about a gentleman, an old dear friend of mine named David Miller. I first met David over 25 years ago when he came to the Tampa area to be the director for CF Industries of their port activities, which were huge at that time. One of David's many duties was running a large fleet, private fleet, of tank trucks, delivering materials back and forth between the port and the 2 CF Industries fertilizer plants, Bonnie Mines and Plant City. Those trucks ran around the clock, transporting liquid in one direction and dry material in the other between the port and the fertilizer plants. At the time, I was hauling the same materials as I just described in the same type of a vehicle as a common carrier, and I was lucky to have a fair amount of business with CF Industries. Now, his arrival actually cost me money and business. And why was that? Well, he used his talents, the talents that he has that actually are the same talents that got him this award tonight. He's such a methodical person, and using those talents, he dissects every single possibility of a problem and looks at each piece of it and fixes every piece of it. And in the fixing of it, darned if he didn't increase the utilization of his own equipment and thereby take work away from me. So my meeting with David cost me money. What do you think of that? Even then, we became great friends. My wife Nancy and I have known David and Emma now, become close friends with him. And we have done many, many things together. We've had a lot of fun together. Nancy and I send our love and admiration to David, to you, David, and to you, Emma. And our sincere congratulations to you, David, on your much-deserved YMCA award.